Hello and welcome to another video of our series Learn German. In this video, we're going to talk about the difference between the words das, and das. They sound pretty much the same, but there are some important differences, as we will find out now. We'll start with das with one S. So, if you have das with one S, it can either be a definite article, like in this example. Ich sehe das Kind. I see the child. Das is the definite article, and I can replace the definite article by, for example, ich sehe dieses or jenes Kind. So, definite article, and then you write it with one S. Could also be a relative pronoun, like in the example, das Auto, das gekauft hat, ist rot. Again, you write it with one S if it's a relative pronoun, and you can replace the word das, which refers to das Auto, by which or welches in German. Das Auto, welches gekauft hat, ist rot. So again, you can replace das. Could also be a demonstrative pronoun, like in these examples, mein altes Auto, das habe ich schon verkauft. Here we can also say, dieses habe ich schon verkauft oder jenes habe ich schon verkauft. So again, we can replace das by dieses or jenes. Same thing here. Sucht sein Handy. Das Handy, das habe ich gerade gefunden. Dieses habe ich gerade gefunden or jenes habe ich gerade gefunden. So, again, we can replace das by jenes or dieses. So, when we have a definite article, a relative pronoun, or a demonstrative pronoun, the rule applies. You can always replace das by dieses, jenes, or welches. And then you either have a definite article, a relative pronoun, or a demonstrative pronoun. In all three cases, you write das with only one S. Rule number one. Now, when do we use das with SZ or scharfem S? Well, you just have to remember, never at all. Since 1996, when there was a spelling reform, das with SZ doesn't exist anymore. So just forget about that. Now let's come to the last one, das with double S. So we just learned that when we have a definite article, a relative pronoun, or a demonstrative pronoun, we can replace das by dieses, jenes, or welches, and then we do have das with only one S. If that is not the case, so if you cannot replace das by one of these three words, we have a conjunction, which it's at the beginning of a subordinate clause. And then you have to write it with a double S. So, let me give you some examples. Ich freue mich, dass du heute zum Essen kommst. Dass dieses du heute zum Essen kommst, jenes du heute zum Essen kommst, or welches du heute zum Essen kommst, that doesn't sound right. Therefore, it has to be this conjunction which starts the subordinate clause, dass du heute zum Essen kommst. Another example, es tut mir leid, dass es regnet. Again, you try to replace das by dieses, jenes, or welches, and you'll find it doesn't work. It again starts the subordinate clause, dass es regnet. And dass nächste Woche die Ferien beginnen, finden alle Schüler gut. So, dieses, jenes, welches nächste Woche die Ferien beginnen doesn't make any sense. So, it's again subordinate clause at the beginning. So das can also be the first word of a sentence. So these were the examples. And again, a short rule. You just write das with a double S if you cannot replace it by dieses, jenes, or welches. And in this case, you always have a conjunction. Well, that was rule 2, and that's all you need to know. Now let's just have a short exercise that I prepared. So 10 sentences. I suggest that you stop the video now, go through the sentences, just write down the words das or das with double S that have to go in the gaps, and when you've finished, just continue with the video and you'll see whether you did everything correctly. Okay, I guess you're finished by now. And the first sentence, jenes Glas or dieses Glas, welches auf dem Tisch steht, ist leer. So you see, I can replace both times with another word. Das Glas, das auf dem Tisch steht. Das Glas, definite article, which is on the table, relative pronoun, das auf dem Tisch steht, referring to das Glas. Number 2, Peter ärgert sich darüber that he forgot to turn off the handy. So Peter ärgert sich darüber. You can't replace it by dieses, jenes, welches, because it's a subordinate clause that starts here. Therefore, das with double S. Max hat sich ein neues Handy gekauft, which makes great photos, welches super Fotos macht. I can easily replace das by welches, and therefore it's das because it's a relative pronoun. Ich sagte, dass ich 8 Uhr bei dir bin. So again, this is a subordinate clause in a conjunction. An der Ecke steht ein Haus, welches neu gebaut wurde, which does work very, very well. Das neu gebaut wurde, relative pronoun. Now, number 6, das Kind is definitely the definite article, but before we start a subordinate clause, dass das Kind nicht so viele Süßigkeiten essen soll, hat uns gesagt. That is the main clause, hat uns gesagt. Dann, hat gesagt, dass das Examen nicht bestanden hat. Das Examen, definite article, das beginning of the subordinate clause. Meinst du, dass Franz pünktlich sein wird? Again, it's a subordinate clause. Lina trägt ein blaues Kleid, welches ihr gut steht. Relative clause, das referring to das blaue Kleid. Okay, last one, relatively difficult. Dass das Wetter schlecht wird, das war doch klar. So, dass das Wetter schlecht wird, subordinate clause, das Wetter, definite article, das war doch klar. Referring to, dass das Wetter schlecht wird. Okay, that was all. I hope you got the differences, understood everything. Thank you for your attention and have fun and be successful learning German. Bye bye.